All right, what is up? All right, before I jump in, if you are going to be at Game Plan next week, be sure to hit us up. I definitely want to connect with everybody in person. And we got a bunch of people from the Good Merger team that are going to be there. Letitia's going to be there. Andrew's going to be there. Jay's going to be hanging out. So it'll be great. And then we got a bunch of you acquisition holdco members that want to meet each other. So definitely hit us up if you are going to be around. So today I am jumping into how you can turn $100,000 into $10 million this year, 2025, with a unique acquisition holdco strategy. This isn't your typical, it's definitely not your typical start from scratch entrepreneurial journey, but more importantly, it's not your typical business acquisition journey. So this is more about leveraging the acquisition holdco strategy and focusing it around capital allocation and a unique kind of deal making style focused around multiples arbitrage. So, from my perspective, this is really just the real game of building wealth at scale. So let's start with like, what is multiple arbitrage? So a lot of you know, I took a company public a while back, and the whole point of that was multiple arbitrage. We had a business where we were basically investing in deals in this space, in micro private equity space, and we would get these royalties. And we could obviously put those into a business, sell them at a 3, 4 multiple. But what we realized is, when we put it into a public format and sold it to businesses that were in the public arena, it changed those multiples to being more like 20, right? So that's really just taking advantage of a multiples arbitrage. That means you've got a business that if you just sold it one way, it's going to be at this lower multiple. If you do it another way, it's going to be at a very much higher multiple. Obviously, the multiples like 3 to 20 is extreme, but if you can just do a 3 to 5, it's very, very profitable. Or 3 to 6, like you're literally doubling the business without changing anything in operations, without getting rid of a single expense. And obviously, we still want to do those things, but it's really powerful when you can combine them. So before I start, let me tell you, I know not everyone wants to be this aggressive. I know not everyone wants to, do the work involved with what I'm going to lay out today. And I also know that it's not even that everybody's in a position to pull this off, but I think that there are a lot of you who are in a position to pull it off. And once you see that there is a path, it's not about the path being easy. It's just to know that, okay, if I want to be aggressive this year, here is what's possible. And so I think even if you feel like, all right, like I don't think that something like that is possible for me, I want you to kind of really listen seriously or watch this seriously and kind of put yourself to the test to say, is this something that I would be willing to pull off? Now, I'll say that basically the approach, it does require the right mindset. It obviously requires a level of ambition. It does help if there's some level of experience, not necessarily in acquisitions, but in a particular industry. And then building the right team and advisors is important. But I think probably the biggest thing that makes this possible is having a clear understanding of what the end goal looks like. And I think that's what a lot of people miss out on, and just entrepreneurs in general. I talk to entrepreneurs, I talk to even people that bought businesses, and it's like, okay, like what's your goal? And one of the saddest goals is just like, my goal is to pay bills. Like that is a very depressing goal because you got you're this magical being. You're here on earth. You've got this opportunity to do some really amazing things, and so why not shoot for the stars? And especially when you can do it in a way that is very low risk. And I'm going to walk you through how you can take this particular strategy and do it in a low risk way for you. So what we're doing with this strategy is essentially building a conglomerate that's specifically designed for maximizing your exit. So for those ready to think a little bigger this year, this is a cool opportunity. Most people, even in the world of acquisitions, don't really think like this. And for those of you that aren't quite there yet, just consider this a glimpse of what's possible. So let's start with the foundation. The first key here is we're really playing this game from the understanding of the capital stack. So a lot of people get into acquisition, they're really focused on, I want to operate a business in this space, or I want to do this type of deal. And once I do that deal, I want to work in the marketing of that business. And they kind of have all these things. When you're building your acquisition holdco, from this perspective, like most of the work and most of the focus is literally on the capital stack. And then the filtering of the deal isn't like the typical business about like, oh, I think it would be so much fun to own a business that is in the spa space because I love to go to the spa. It just has nothing to do with that. It is almost like you're filtering based on the capital stack that you're going to be able to achieve in a certain industry or multiple industries that you're going to put into your ACHOCO. So let's say you're looking at a business, you've decided where you're going to target, and you find a business that you want to buy. Now, obviously, as you know, if you're a fan of this channel, just like buying real estate, buying a car, you don't pay the full amount up front. So we all know that, I've talked a lot about all the different strategies you can use to go out and get financing. And, instead of you putting up cash, you're using a combination of equity and debt, the same way you would with a house. If you put down a down payment and then the rest gets financed with a mortgage. The key thing with the deals that we're doing is that we're obviously buying businesses that are generating a good amount of cash flow. And that cash flow isn't just there to cover debt. That cash flow is there to pay me and you as the people running the holdco, but also to reinvest overall in the growth of your holding company. This is one of the big advantages of buying these businesses that are well established. We just did a deal that actually I'll be talking about at Game Plan, where the business is like 44 years old. That's an established business. And so, we're not doing anything that has a lot of variability. So in the first month of this year, and the first month of our kind of whole when we're looking at everybody across our acquisition whole program and the clients, right now we have about $10 million under contract. And it's cool because it's all kinds of industries. And so before I was doing this video, I really wanted to calculate like, okay, of the $10 million in deals that we've got in contract, what is the down payment? And mind you, again, this is all kinds of industries. We do have a couple kind of specifically in travel. We've got a deal in Nova Scotia that we're kind of partnering in some folks in the Actors of Hoco are going to do. And we've got what that's in the travel space, obviously. And then we've got another deal that's an internet-based business that's also in the travel space. And both of those are seven-figure businesses. So it is, I say across the rest is different industries, but there happens to be out of the 10 million for this month, kind of a cool interest in the travel space. And I'm very excited about some of the very cool things. Andrew's already coming up with some cool things that we can do. Even though there's two separate set of buyers in those two travel deals, just some cool things we're going to be able to do between that and then the deal that we did in Medellin and that whole co. So as I looked at those, we look at basically we got about 10 million deals combined in the clients, and overall the equity from those clients is about 2%. So, that gives you an idea. It'd be like you're buying a house and you only got to put 2% down. And then some of those are obviously no money down deals and that kind of thing. But overall, if you just take kind of the swath against all of them, it's about 2%. So what would a typical deal look like if you're looking at this very aggressive conglomerate type structure to try to turn the 100,000 to 10 million this year? Let's break down what it would look like. And then we'll just, start with just a very simple deal that gets you on the road. And so let's say you're buying a $1 million business and you're just going to do it with an SBA loan. So we've got One out of the 10 million, I don't think only one is doing SBA, but it can be a really powerful. It is structured, and in that particular deal, I like this is exactly how they are structuring that deal. So they need 10% to put down as equity. So a lot of people will say, "Hey, I don't have 100,000. 10% of $1 million, that's 100,000. Where am I going to do it?" Well, this client didn't either. And the cool thing is that, first of all, you got to take a step back and just know it's awesome that you can get 90% of this thing that is cash flowing, because that is the magic. Like, you have a cash flowing business that you're buying at a 3 multiple. So the day that you close that deal, and this is why, years ago when I had over 30 rental units and I had probably about 9 businesses at that given point, and I just looked at how fast the equity was being built in those businesses. Just like literally every month, 1/24. There was a 2 multiple business. That basically means every month 1/24 of that business was being paid off, and in 24 months that whole business was going to be paid off. And so if you looked at a house like that, it's like, man, if you could just go buy a bunch of $1 million houses that were going to pay for themselves in 2 years instead of 30 years, just that alone is a very powerful strategy. So you got to just start with understanding the magic of just the most simple, at the most simple level. But the next thing is, we're starting to leverage other people's money with the 90%. And I'll talk about, kind of, because there is a portion from the seller in that. But you've got the other 10%, and it doesn't mean that you can't leverage other people's money there as well. So, when we're looking at these deals, we want our members to, even when they have capital, try to maximize the amount of capital they're getting from outside investors, because, as I said before, we want to do these in a way that just limit your risk. So in one of the cases, they're basically getting their down payment on a 7-figure deal from another one of our members that lives in Italy. So shout out to my man Earl. I think he's in South Carolina, and the other partner, Terrence, is in Italy. And so they're basically doing a deal where one has some capital, the other one, is doing a deal and has credit, and so they can come together and form a partnership and be able to do that deal. And it's really cool because they met in the program. Now, it's actually kind of funny, actually, as I'm talking about this. We had 2 new members I just talked to on 2 new clients on Friday, where they're coming in together and they already have that exact partnership. So one of them is US based, the other one is in Eastern Europe. And one has some cash, the other one has some credit, kind of the same thing as what they're planning on doing. And so the idea here is that you can put these deals together in a way that you can scale up your conglomerate. So let's talk about how you scale this up. So when I have clients that are going to go after this specific strategy, this kind of conglomerate strategy that we're talking about, focused on exiting, I tell them to target businesses that are earning between 1 million and about 3 million a year. And here's the reason why. In this range, the valuations are just really attractive. It's like right in the middle, where you've got a really great business. You're typically buying a business, been around forever, but you can also avoid having to compete with like institutional buyers, which are going to drive up the multiple. Because our goal is to get it at a low multiple and then be able to sell it at a higher multiple. And there's just other really cool things that you can do. You don't have to sell it. You could also borrow against it at a higher multiple. So the other plus behind this is they're generating serious cash flow. And so just every month, I'm talking about like the amount that you're paying down, but you're also it's kicking off some really serious cash flow that you can do other things within your holdco. So imagine that you are buying a business. The business has a 1 million EBITDA. So that's earnings, profits, however you want to say it. and you're going to buy it at a 3.5 multiple. That means you're not doing anything that's like super aggressive. It's just a very normal deal. These are deals we do all day long. We've got other deals. Actually, it's funny with the internet-based deal. I mean, I feel like we spent 4 months like structuring that, and kudos to the good merger team, like just doing a really good job of trying to get both sides what they need. And again, like if you're really doing the work on the capital stack of these deals, and it's work, right? Now with the capital stack approach, and you're going to use SBA, then it's a little bit easier and it's a little more simple. So I'm using it in this example, but within that percentage, you got a percentage going to come from the SBA loan, and then the rest is going to come from seller financing. And then that final piece, like, as I mentioned, will come from investors. Now, you don't have to have the credit. You don't have to have the cash. Like you can structure these deals creatively, and this is where the real opportunity is. So when we're thinking about things from a seller financing standpoint, I'll show you how the strategy kind of gets really cool and works some wonders here. Getting the seller to offer financing, like that's one way to do these deals. The only downside is it's going to take a little bit of the cash flow, and we really want to be able to reinvest that cash flow. So we want to be able to reinvest that cash flow in doing more deals, growing the conglomerate, because the more that we grow it, the more that we're going to be able to exit for in the end. And so the way that we like to structure these is we give the seller 20% in the subsidiary of our holdco that we're going to buy their business in. There's a lot of reasons that this is valuable for you. Obviously, you have someone who is really motivated. Like they are motivated to make this business work. And then I'm going to break down a second why this is amazing for them and how you get them excited about taking equity instead of seller financing. Now, the other really important thing of all of this is you're still acquiring their business, and the rest of the SBA loan is going to go to them. So there is not like they're not getting a huge chunk of cash up front. And for most people, there's going to be a substantial tax liability that comes from that, anyways. So there's a lot of ways to sell this, and again, I'll break down the biggest way to sell this to them in a sec. But bottom line is, we're acquiring the business, we're structuring with a mix of cash from our investor, seller, either equity, less motivating would be a note, then some bank financing in the form of SBA. So this gets the sellers incentives aligned with yours and keeps them invested in the deal. Now, you scale this by partnering, as I mentioned, where you're not just going out. This is one of the biggest mistakes that business buyers are making right now is they're going into the deal like, okay, I'm going to do everything myself. I'm going to put up all the capital. I'm going to take on the credit. I'm going to have a seller finance note. And when we structure it this way, you've got all these other team members, right? You've got the seller, which is basically one of your team members, by putting him into the equity, the capital structure or capital stack of your whole co. You've got an investor who's coming in some cases, you may even have a credit investor that's coming in and doing SBA. And so this is one of the ways to really scale this thing, which takes us to the next part. And this is, you have to have this kind of foundational leverage in order to scale, in order to get to kind of the numbers that we're talking about. So now we are ready. If we're done it right at the foundation, we're ready to basically take our strategy on the road and do things on a larger scale. So you imagine taking the strategy that we just went through and you multiply that over 5 businesses. And the truth is, doing it that way, you could multiply it over 10 businesses. So if you have 10 businesses that are each one of those are generating that $1 million a year, you can, and you're structuring it the way that I described, you can also structure so that you're maintaining control of each of the subsidiaries. So you have the whole co that owns each one of the businesses that you're acquiring. Got a set of partners in each subsidiary that you're doing these acquisitions with. And then there are also other really key point to this is you've got help as far as the operations so that you can scale this up. And so that's the other reason that you want to pull in other people and have them as partners, not employees. Like obviously you're going to have the employees, but you need some other owners to help you execute with this strategy. Now, by consolidating each of those businesses into your holdco, you're earning the 10 million a year, and that is a earnings machine. And here's where the multiple arbitrage comes into play. While each one of those businesses would be for sale in a 3 to 3.5 multiple, as a combined entity, it would, and such with those numbers, you would at a minimum be at a 7 multiple, but it should be about an 8.5 multiple. So that means that as a majority owner, you've got a minimum $25 million added to your net worth. And this is before we begin to do the real work and the point of a HOCO. So once you start to leverage the HOCO model to improve the profits, so first you're centralizing the operations, you're consolidating things in the business like marketing in each of the businesses, you're looking at expenses and figuring out, hey, where are we duplicating the expenses? You start to take things down into accounting, into HR. There's a lot of fun strategies that we use where like marketing department actually becomes a separate entity, which is a marketing agency. So that expense actually goes into another entity. Now your whole co becomes even more valuable. The accounting that was done between all of them, that becomes a bookkeeping business. HR becomes a recruiting business. And so now the 10 businesses at a minimum, just if you're doing a basic deal, becomes 13. And this really should be the path for an easily $100 million business, because with the 10 million, we were at 70 million at a 7 multiple, and that's conservative. So with these other entities, you have a path to get there. Now, a real key to all this, number one, is those partners that are in each of the deals. Secondly, in each of the deals, you want to filter based on having a strong management team, because your goal isn't to get in there and work on operations. Your goal is to focus on, like we said, working the capital stack. And then obviously you're picking out the best talent to bring them up into the whole co level and start to unify your operations. You start to unify the culture across the acquisitions, because this isn't just like buying a bunch of businesses. It's about creating a scalable, cohesive enterprise that you're going to be able to attract somebody to buy. Like we're creating a product, and the product is the business that we want to maximize the exit on. So why does this strategy work? Because number one, it's going back to the seller. We are able to appeal to that small business owner that has built a really great company, but they don't have the time or resources or expertise to execute on a strategy like this or scale their own business even further. It's a lot tougher to take a really great business and double that business than it is to use this strategy to take the same business, not having to double a single dollar of revenue, but able to double the value by combining it in this whole co and with the other businesses. And that becomes a much easier sell to that business owner as an opportunity for them to take a piece of that profit. So that's one of the ways that we can limit our upfront amount and cost, and even our debt on seller financing, is getting them excited about the vision of being able to exit at a premium. And all kinds of really cool things happen once they're in that deal. They start to refer their friends and say, hey, like, this is pretty cool. You may want to take advantage of this, da da da, which becomes more deal flow for you. And with each one, you're offering them a stake in the upside, and so that you can secure the deal. And once you've done one of these, it becomes easy to do more and more and more, which is very, very cool. So in my days, which when I was more aggressive, I've done multiple of these kind of roll-ups, which have been just great, great deals. So obviously, every deal carries risk, so we do want to be cognizant of that. This is not just a free ride. You have to be very smart about due diligence, and it's a unique type of due diligence that you're doing if you want to execute on this strategy, taking in mind who the end buyer is, as opposed to just like you buying a business and you want to live off the cash flow. So due diligence process is a little bit different, and that helps you to mitigate some of the risks. You want to analyze the cash flow, the customer retention, operations, and obviously you're doing the basic stuff, surrounding yourself with the advisors who know the game, who are on board for the long haul, and then having some contingency plans as well. This process isn't about cutting corners. It's about building value that lasts. And that means reinvesting in your business. That means like empowering your partners, empowering the teams in each of those subsidiary deals, and then getting to work with those holdco strategies of improving efficiency, leveraging assets, all that good stuff. I feel like for me the payoff for these kinds of deals isn't just the financial aspect or the financial freedom that you get. I think it's like the partnerships that and the friendships that you get to build and all of that. So if you're somebody that hears strategies like this and you're like, man, I'm just ready to get into the game. I'm ready to take the leap. I don't know if it's this strategy, the conglomerate strategy, what it is, but I am ready to start building my acquisition holdco. Then I would encourage you to reach out, come have a chat with us about the Acquisition Holdco program, which is a very cool community of like-minded deal makers. We also surround you with experts from my team and the team at Good Merger. And it makes it a lot easier for you to make a bet on yourself, which is our goal. So this strategy transformed my life. It's transformed a lot of people around me life, a lot of my clients' lives. And I literally know it can transform yours if this is something that you're interested in. If, however, you are feel like, I'm not ready to really jump in, then feel free to join one of our levels of the Patreon or buy my book, which I think you get free if there's like a membership kind of thing on Amazon. So if you're part of that, then you can get the ACE formula free. I wrote it 12 years ago, but still get emails all the time from people who are doing amazing deals just from reading the book. So thanks for checking out the video. If you aren't a subscriber, take a moment to subscribe. And if you're new here, you probably don't know this, but over here we make and save money. We don't save our likes or comments. So like the video, it costs you nothing. Say hello before, especially if you've made it to the end. Let me know if you made it to the end of this one. I know it's a little bit long. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.